I'm gonna try to make this quick as I can. I don't know if my mom's awake or not, but I thought I'd talk about some. I was looking up online because I'm a fan of Scooby-Doo, of course, and I was looking up some information about the new Scooby-Doo movies, which I just recently added the Wild Winds of Winona, the Speed Buggy crossover, to my latest DVD, which is up there. This one right there on top. I don't know if you can see it. That one right there. Well, anyway, I was looking up a little information about it, a little bit in the crossovers, and I went to an article that was at toonzone.net in the retro classics section, and it talked about, and it was a question of basically something along the lines of what crossovers would you have liked to seen. I think I may have it or something. I'm not sure. Hold on. I'm trying to pull it up here. It's basically crossovers and guest stars, basically that you would have liked to seen. I think the person puts it along the lines of seeing the new Scooby-Doo. This is what this person said back in 2007. They said seeing the new Scooby-Doo movies again on Cartoon Network had me thinking, what guest stars or characters should they have had? And I'm only thinking about characters or celebrities that excited back in the 70s or late 60s, whatever you want to call it, but mostly 70s. And a lot of the and some of the celebrities and stuff they talked about could have potentially been good, like Andy Griffith, Lucille Ball, Carol Burnett, the list goes on. Dean Martin, maybe, the list goes on. For me, though, as far as animation-wise goes, I think they could have done a crossover with several other Hanna-Barbera characters that they had at that time. For example, well, I guess they couldn't have done Jabba, but potentially, if they would have kept the new Scooby-Doo movies going and probably do a few new episodes here and there every year, I think a potential Jabba crossover could have been good. And I think the same could be said for, let's say, I don't know, something like, well, I'm trying to figure this out. Like High Inch Private Eye would have been good. Eye Inch Private Eye, whatever you want to call them, would have been good. Maybe a possible crossover with the, right here, the Impossibles. You could have had that. Possibly cross them over with Penelope Pitstop, Perils of Penelope Pitstop. If you remember that. I'm trying to look here, trying to see any more. Like I said, Perils of Penelope Pitstop would have been a good one. Funky Phantom would have been good. Like I said, Jabberjaw could have been a possibility. Hong Kong Phooey could have been a good possibility too. I'm just saying, Johnny Quest is a good idea. Would have been a great crossover right there. Back at that time, Johnny Quest. Trying to see what else. Let's see. I know there's a band concert one around here somewhere. It's got all the characters that I was talking about. No, that's not it. But yeah, there are some characters like the ones I mentioned that would have been great. Um, like I said with Jabba Jaw, maybe you could have done something because with Jabba Jaw, it's supposed to be like in the future. To me, they could have easily, because they do some interesting. Because one thing that the new Scooby-Doo movies proved is they kind of will, kind of bend the realms of limitation, of reality, and go and do things that normally you wouldn't expect them to do. I mean, they did it with Genie, right, and Speed Buggy. So I figured, all right, well, what could they do that would bend the rules of reality? What could they do? And my thought was, why not have maybe an episode where they go back in time? Well, a time machine's actually made, and the gang goes back in time, and they meet up with, let's say, or goes forward in time actually, and meets up with the Jabberjaw and the Neptunes, or they go back in time and they meet up with the Herculoids, or something like that, or maybe even the Flintstones, but more importantly the Herculoids. Things like that. I think would have been good. Some people even suggested maybe Top Cat, and that would have been probably a possibility, but I really don't think so. I think more along the lines of you wanted to keep it in that mystery realm, that mystery teen crime fighting realm at that time. So I think something like Johnny Quest, Funky Phantom, Funky Phantom, Jabberjaw, High Inch Private Eye. Even if, like I said, if they would have done a few new episodes every now and then throughout the years, maybe even Captain Caveman, the Teen Angels, maybe even have Blue Falcon and Dynamite guest star in their show, which they did with Mystery Incorporated, but back then, I mean, it would have been great. I mean, to me, it had all that potential right there, but they never had the opportunity they never really had the opportunity to capitalize on it. So, but to me, I really think some of the shows that I mentioned would have been great choices, especially keeping in that mystery solving realm. If you know what I mean. Keeping it in that mystery solving realm. Because to me, and I'm looking at this big screenshot here, and if you notice, yeah, if you're a Shaggy Daphne shipper, you might notice throughout the entire picture, there's no Fred or Velma. You got Scooby and Scrappy, but no Fred and Velma. But you do have Daphne and Shaggy. What does that tell you back then? Anyway, like I said, I looked through all these characters here, and each and every one of them was a possibility. Like I said, you could have had, a Scooby-Doo movie episode with her, with him, possibly him, Birdman, maybe even Space Ghost if you wanted to do that. Just a whole, and like I said, things like Funky Phantom, Jabberjaw, for example, right there. All would have been great possibilities. And, like I said, it really would have worked out great if they would have kept it like that. Or would have tried that. And those, honestly, are team-ups that I feel they could have really capitalized on back then. So, to me, Penelope Pitstop, Funky Phantom, Jabberjaw, High Inch Private Eye, and maybe Hong Kong Phooey at best would have been the top 5 they could have worked with down that line. But they never got a chance to do. So Penelope Pitstop, Johnny Quest, High Inch Private Eye, Funky Phantom, and Jabberjaw and Hong Kong Phooey as a possibility, but more so I think the top 5 that I just mentioned. I forgot to put in Johnny Quest in the first time, so the real top 5 are Penelope, Johnny Quest, Jabberjaw, Funky Phantom, and High Inch Private Eye. those would have been great possibilities for crossovers in the new Scooby-Doo movies back in the 70s. But, that's just my thought on it, and I know a lot of you have your own thoughts, so let me know what you guys think, and I'll talk to you all later.